You spent what? $25,000 of my college fund on renovating your kitchen. I stared at my mother in disbelief, my voice shaking with a mix of anger and confusion. It's just money, Alexander, my mother said with a dismissive wave of her hand. And honestly, education isn't that important these days. Look at all these successful people who dropped out of college. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. The money my grandparents had carefully saved for my education, gone. Just like that. And for what? A marble countertop and fancy cabinets that my mother had been obsessing over for months. My name is Alexander Mitchell. I'm 19 years old, and this is how my mother destroyed my dreams of attending college without drowning in debt. Growing up, I'd always been told that my future was secure. My grandparents had started a college fund for me when I was born, adding to it every birthday and Christmas. By the time I graduated high school, it had grown to almost $60,000, enough to cover a significant portion of my tuition at the state university where I'd been accepted to study computer science. My parents divorced when I was 12. Dad moved to another state for work, remarried, and started a new family. He sent child support payments, but was never really present in my life after that. Mom got custody of me and my older sister Sophia, along with our family home, a modest 3-bedroom house in a nice suburban neighborhood. Sophia was now 24 and had already graduated college with the help of her own fund from our grandparents. She'd moved to Chicago for a job in marketing and rarely came home these days. That left just me and Mom in the house, at least until I was supposed to leave for college in the fall. My mother, Ava, had always been somewhat impulsive with money. After the divorce, she developed expensive tastes that didn't quite match her administrative assistant salary. She became obsessed with home improvement shows and constantly compared our perfectly functional home to the glamorous after-shots on those programs. "The kitchen is the heart of the home, Alexander," she would say while flipping through design magazines. "Don't you think we deserve a better heart?" I never paid much attention to her renovation dreams. My focus was on finishing high school with good grades, hanging out with my best friend Owen, and spending time with my girlfriend Luna. Luna and I had been dating for 2 years, and we were both thrilled when we got accepted to the same university. We'd made all these plans about taking some classes together and supporting each other through the college experience. The bomb dropped 3 months before I was supposed to start college. I'd just gotten home from my summer job at the local electronics store when Mom called me into the kitchen with unusual excitement in her voice. "Alexander, come see what arrived today," she squealed. I walked in to find her standing in front of a large sample board with various cabinet finishes, countertop materials, and color swatches. "Isn't it beautiful?" she gushed. "The contractor is starting next week." "Contractor? What contractor?" I asked, confused. "For the kitchen renovation, silly." I finally pulled the trigger. "It's going to be amazing. Quartz countertops, custom cabinets, new appliances, the works." "That's great, Mom," I said hesitantly. "But I thought you were saving up for this. How are you affording all this?" Her smile faltered slightly. "Well, I've been putting aside a little money, but you know how inflation is these days. Everything costs so much more than I expected." Something in her expression made me uneasy. "Mom, how are you paying for this?" She avoided my eyes. I had to get a bit creative with the financing. "What does that mean exactly?" That's when she dropped the bombshell. She'd withdrawn $25,000 from my college fund. "You what?" I shouted, louder than I'd ever spoken to her before. "Don't make such a big deal out of it," she said defensively. "I'm your mother. I've sacrificed everything for you. That money wasn't yours to take. Grandma and Grandpa saved that money for my education. They gave it to me to manage for you," she countered. "And as your parent, I get to decide what's best. How is a kitchen renovation better for my future than a college degree?" She crossed her arms. "Look, Alexander, college is overrated anyway. Half the people with degrees end up with jobs that don't even require them. You're smart. You could learn coding on YouTube for free instead of wasting money on some outdated curriculum." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My own mother had effectively stolen my future and was now trying to justify it with ridiculous arguments. "Besides," she continued, "this renovation will increase the value of the house. That's an investment too, you know. An investment in your house that I don't even own a part of." I was practically shaking with anger now. "This is still your home," she said softly, attempting to placate me. "And it always will be." "Not anymore," I said, turning to leave. I'm calling Grandma and Grandpa. Don't you dare. Her voice turned sharp. This is between us. They don't need to know the details. They absolutely need to know that you misused the money they set aside for my education. My grandparents were devastated when I told them. They lived on a fixed income now and couldn't replace what had been taken. My grandfather, a retired school principal who valued education above almost everything, was particularly hurt. We trusted her to do the right thing, he said, his voice heavy with disappointment. The next few weeks were a nightmare. The contractors arrived, and our kitchen was torn apart, while my future plans crumbled just as thoroughly. Luna was sympathetic but worried about what this meant for us. Maybe you can get student loans, she suggested as we sat in her car outside my noisy, dust-filled house. I already applied for financial aid, but it won't cover everything, I explained. And I don't want to start my adult life tens of thousands of dollars in debt. Owen had a more direct approach to the situation. Dude, what your mom did is literally theft. You could press charges. She's still my mom. I sighed. I don't want her to go to jail. I just want my money back. Meanwhile, my sister Sophia was furious when she found out. She immediately called Mom, and they had a screaming match over the phone. How could you do this, damn? I overheard Sophia yelling. After everything Grandma and Grandpa did to make sure we had opportunities. Mom's response was to play the victim. You both always take their side. No one understands how hard it's been for me since your father left. My father, Jack, was surprisingly supportive when I called to tell him what happened. We hadn't been close since the divorce, but this situation seemed to wake something in him. That's completely unacceptable, he said firmly. What does she expect you to do about college now? She thinks I should just learn everything online or go to community college while living at home, I explained. There was a long pause before he spoke again. Alexander, I know I haven't been the father you deserve these past few years, but I want to help. Let me make some calls and see what I can do. I didn't hold out much hope. Dad had 2 young children with his new wife, and I doubted he had spare money lying around for the son he barely saw. The kitchen renovation continued, with Mom excitedly showing me samples and catalogs as if nothing was wrong. Each new fixture or appliance that arrived was another reminder of what had been taken from me. The beautiful maple cabinets she was so proud of would cost me classes I wouldn't be able to take. The high-end refrigerator represented books I couldn't afford. My relationship with my mother deteriorated rapidly. We barely spoke except when necessary, and I started spending most of my time at Owen's house or with Luna. The tension was unbearable, especially as August approached and my friends were preparing to leave for college while my plans remained in limbo. One evening, as I was helping Luna pack her dorm essentials, the reality of our impending separation hit me hard. I can't believe we won't be starting college together, she said, folding a blanket into a storage bin. I know, I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. But maybe I can transfer after a year at community college. She nodded, but we both knew long-distance relationships were challenging, especially during such formative years. Back at home, the kitchen renovation was finally complete. Mom hosted a small reveal party with a few of her friends, proudly showing off her new gourmet space while I remained upstairs in my room, unable to even look at what my education had been traded for. Later that night, she knocked on my door. Alexander, please come see the finished kitchen, she said through the door. I've seen enough of it, I replied coldly. She sighed loudly. You can't stay mad forever. I'm still your mother. Something in me snapped. I opened the door and faced her directly. Yes, you're my mother. And mothers are supposed to put their children's futures ahead of their own wants, not steal their college funds for vanity projects. Her face hardened. I did not steal anything. I made a decision as your parent. A selfish decision that benefits only you. This kitchen adds value to our home. Your home, I corrected. The home I'll now be stuck in much longer than I planned because I can't afford college. She threw up her hands. Fine, be dramatic. But one day you'll thank me for teaching you that you don't need some overpriced degree to be successful. I laughed bitterly. Is that what you're telling yourself? That this was some kind of life lesson? The conversation went nowhere, as usual. We were at an impasse, with neither of us willing to concede. But I knew I needed to take action rather than just wallow in anger and resentment. The next day, I sat down and made a plan. First, I called the university's financial aid office to explain my situation and see what additional help might be available. Then I researched scholarships, part-time jobs near campus, and loan options. I also looked into legal recourse, though I was still reluctant to take such drastic measures against my own mother. My sister Sophia called with an unexpected offer. "I can help with some of your expenses," she said. "I got a promotion at work, and I've been saving pretty well. It won't cover everything, but maybe it could help with books or housing." I was touched by her generosity, but hesitant to accept. "That's your money, Sophia. You worked hard for it. And you shouldn't have to pay for Mom's midlife crisis," she countered. "We stick together, remember?" A week later, my father called with news that surprised me even more. "I've been thinking about your situation," he said, "and I want to make you an offer. If you're willing to move to Colorado, you can live with us rent-free and attend the state university here. I can't cover all your tuition, but I can help with some of it." I was stunned. "Are you serious? What about your wife? And the kids?" "Julie is completely on board," he assured me. "And your half-siblings would love to get to know their big brother better." It was a generous offer, but moving to Colorado meant being far from Luna, Owen, and everyone else I knew. It also meant leaving my mother alone, despite everything that had happened. "Can I think about it?" I asked. "Of course," Dad replied. "But don't wait too long. The semester starts in a few weeks." That night, I couldn't sleep. My mind raced with possibilities and complications. Around midnight, I heard my mother crying in her bedroom. Despite my anger, the sound tugged at my heart. I got up and stood outside her door, hesitating before knocking softly. "Mom, are you okay?" There was a pause before she answered. "I'm fine, Alexander. Go back to bed. Can I come in?" Another pause. "Okay." I opened the door to find her sitting on her bed, surrounded by photo albums. Old pictures of our family, before the divorce, when things were simpler, were spread across the comforter. "What are you doing?" I asked, sitting at the edge of the bed. She wiped her eyes. "Just remembering." We sat in silence for a moment before she spoke again. "Your father called me today." My heart skipped. "He did." She nodded. "He told me about his offer." "Oh," was all I could manage. "He's trying to make up for lost time," she said with a hint of bitterness. Always the hero swooping in at the last minute. I didn't respond to that. Instead, I picked up one of the photos, me at about 5 years old, sitting on her lap at some park, both of us laughing. "Why did you really take that money, Mom?" I asked quietly. She was silent for so long I thought she might not answer. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. "I was trying to fix something that can't be fixed with a new kitchen." "What do you mean?" She gestured around the room. "This house. My life. After your father left, I felt like a failure. Like I wasn't enough. The renovation. I thought it would make me feel successful again. Like I was moving forward instead of just surviving. It wasn't an excuse, but it was at least an explanation that made some sense. But my college fund, couldn't you have taken out a home equity loan or something?" She looked away. I tried. My credit isn't great since the divorce, and I've been carrying some debt I never told anyone about. This was news to me. "How bad is it?" "Bad enough," she admitted. "I used your fund because it was the only money I could access." The realization hit me that my mother wasn't just selfish, she was drowning. It didn't excuse what she'd done, but it helped me understand it better. "I'm sorry, Alexander," she said, and for the first time, it sounded sincere. "I made a terrible mistake. I convinced myself that it would all work out somehow, that you'd be fine no matter what. But the truth is, I was thinking about myself, not you." We talked for hours that night, more honestly than we had in years. She revealed the full extent of her financial troubles, her feelings of inadequacy after the divorce, and her fear of being alone once I left for college. I shared my dreams for the future, my relationship with Luna, and my confusion about my father's sudden desire to be part of my life again. By morning, we were exhausted, but somehow closer than we'd been in a long time. Over breakfast, Mom made a proposal. "I can't give you the money back right away," she said. "But what if I sell the house?" I nearly choked on my toast. "Sell the house? Where would you live?" "I could get an apartment. Something small, manageable. The house has good equity, especially with the new kitchen," she added with a sad smile. "I could pay you back your college fund and use the rest to pay off my debts." "Mom, you don't have to." "Yes, I do," she interrupted. "It's the right thing to do. This house is too big for just me anyway, especially once you're gone." The next few weeks were a whirlwind. Mom listed the house with a realtor who was impressed by the newly renovated kitchen. I called my father to thank him for his offer, but explained that I was going to try to make my original college plan work after all. I understand, he said, sounding disappointed but supportive. But the offer stands if you ever change your mind. And regardless, I want to be more present in your life going forward. Luna was thrilled when I told her I might be able to join her at our chosen university after all. Owen helped me research affordable off-campus housing options for when I'd eventually need to move out of the dorms. The house sold quickly, at a price even higher than we expected. As promised, Mom transferred $25,000 back to me, along with an additional $5,000 as what she called interest and an apology. She found a nice one-bedroom apartment closer to her work and seemed lighter once she'd paid off her credit card debt and started fresh. I was able to register for classes just in time for the fall semester. It wasn't easy. I had to take out some student loans and accept Sophia's offer of help for books, but I was on campus with Luna, studying what I loved. My relationship with my mother remained complicated. The hurt didn't disappear overnight, but we were both working on rebuilding trust. She came to visit me on campus occasionally, and I had dinner at her apartment every few weeks. Slowly, we were creating a new normal. One evening, as we were finishing dinner at her place, she handed me an envelope. "What's this?" I asked. "Open it," she said nervously. Inside was a check for $2,000. "Mom, you don't need to. It's my first quarterly payment," she explained. "I'm going to keep paying back the rest of your fund. I calculated that if I set aside part of each paycheck, I can restore the full amount over the next few years." I was speechless. "I know it doesn't fix what I did," she continued, "but I want you to know that I'm committed to making it right." That night, walking back to my dorm, I reflected on the events of the past several months. My mother had betrayed my trust in a profound way, and the pain of that wouldn't completely fade. But I'd also learned something about forgiveness, not as a way of excusing wrongdoing, but as a path forward for both the hurt and the one who caused it. I'd gained unexpected insights about my parents too, my mother's deep insecurities and my father's genuine desire to reconnect. And perhaps most importantly, I discovered my own resilience and the value of the support system I had in Sophia, Owen, Luna, and even my grandparents. The kitchen that had nearly cost me my education became, ironically, the catalyst for significant growth and change in our family. My mother was healthier financially and emotionally in her new, simpler life. I was pursuing my degree with a deeper appreciation for the opportunity. And while the road hadn't been easy, we were all, in different ways, in better places than where we'd started. Do you think I made the right decision by forgiving my mother and accepting her plan to sell the house? Should I have taken legal action instead, as Owen suggested, or accepted my father's offer to move to Colorado? I'm curious about what others would have done in my situation and whether you think my approach was the best one. What would you have done if you were in my shoes?